back to School Talk at Child Connections. I am Dr. Connie Ellis, your host for this show. In the last two segments, we visited with Mark Zimmerman, who gave us a lot of good information about school discipline, what we need to do if our child gets into trouble. This segment, we're talking to Susan Majors, and I'm going to let Susan introduce herself and what she does with students who have they have actually disabilities, right, Susan?
That's correct, Connie. Hi, thanks so much for having me today.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm a parent liaison and I work with the Sarasota County Schools, and our program was set up to help families who have students with disabilities who have IEPs or individual education plans get through the school system. And today, I guess we're going to talk about discipline and when our children with special needs get into trouble, what type of help is available through the Parent Liaison Program for their families to help them through the process.
That's a wonderful topic, and I want to ask you, just briefly tell them about the Disability Acts, because a lot of people don't know that that's even in effect.
Well, there's two different laws that can help students in school who have disabilities. If your child has some sort of medical disability and they don't really need any specially designed instruction or curriculum changes, they can get accommodations through the Section 504 Rehabilitation Act of 1973, which is a long title.
It's a long
Most people call it just Section 504. And the other law that governs children who actually have IEPs that get specially designed instruction in our schools is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act.
Okay, now what do you do? What particular? Let's get specific about what you do, because you work with just this population, right?
I do, and actually I only work with kids who have IEPs. So if your child has a Section 504, it's not covered under the Parent Liaison Program, just kids with IEPs. And what our program does is anytime a family has a question about anything with their child with a disability, we will help them try to find answers to those questions as it relates to the school district.
Now give me an example of some of the questions you're asked, just so our audience will get an idea of what you're talking about.
Well, parents wind up going to a lot of meetings for their children who have IEPs. They meet with the school teams to try to figure out what does their child need, how to best present it. And that's the kind of questions we get a lot about. What's the meeting going to be about? How is it going to be presented? Can you attend with us? And the answer to that is yes. And then certainly if their child is having some sort of difficulty in school, just trying to navigate through that system and figure out who can help and where do we go next and what's the next step. That's what our program helps with.
Now what kind of disabilities do you deal with primarily?
Well, I have a passion for autism because I have a child with autism, but any type of disability, from a learning disability to emotional behavior disability, a child with a physical impairment, any child who would qualify for an IEP, our program would work with that family.
Okay, now, and I'm going to go back to because I think this is interesting. I actually myself was an advocate for someone in one of these meetings. So tell the audience a little bit about what happens in those meetings.
Well, typically you come together for a certain purpose, and it can be the family and 10 to 12 school people at times, depending on who needs to provide information about the child and what you're discussing. And it can run anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour or more to get to the bottom line of the issue.
So it's like the teachers are giving the parent information about their child.
Correct, and the parents are sharing information about their child with the team. It's supposed to be a collaborative partnership so that the school and the family are working together in the best interest of the child.
So they come up with a solution at the end of the meeting.
They do. And then the other thing that our program will do, back to discipline, is that if a child with a disability gets suspended or is up for expulsion, there's additional steps the school must take in order to protect the child. Then the school gets a free pass, as we say, for 10 days of suspension. The first 10 days of time in any particular school year, a child with a disability can be suspended like any other child, and there's no special process that happens. But once you come up to that 10th day of cumulative suspension, or your child is being considered for expulsion, the school has to put together a process called a manifestation determination. And
that's a new term to me.
it is, it's a long one. And the point of that is to determine whatever the child is in trouble for, did their disability cause them to do that particular action? And there has been a lot of changes in manifestation this year. The law that governs special education is reauthorized through Congress every so many years. And in 2004, it was reauthorized, and we're actually just now getting around to implementing the changes from that law in our schools. And so as of this school year, when a family comes to a manifestation meeting, there's really two basic questions that are being asked. One is, did the disability that the child have directly cause them to do whatever behavior they're being considered for disciplinary action? Mm-hmm. And then the second question is, was the IEP that was written implemented by the school?
So this is a separate meeting after the IEP.
Correct.
Meeting.
This is just a meeting if a child has has been suspended for more than 10 days or they're being considered for expulsion. And the school has to rule out that it was because of that child's disability. So if the school finds, they go through the manifestation process and it wasn't directly caused by the disability, and the IEP that was written for the child was being implemented by the school, then the child could go through the discipline system just like any other child.
Now, for the people who are watching this, can you give us an example? It's always helpful when you have a little example about what's happened maybe to a child through this process.
And this isn't any particular case, just a general,
no, just a general
case. If a child has a specific learning disability, like they can't read well, and say the child brings drugs to school, that you would have to be able to demonstrate that the fact that the child can't read caused them to bring drugs to the school in order for the child to be treated as a child with a disability through the discipline process, so they would have to do additional IEP goals. The school would have to do something to prevent the child from doing this again, or try to. But if we say this kid has a reading problem and they brought drugs to school, but the reading problem didn't have anything to do with them bringing drugs to the school, then they would be subject to the same disciplinary action as any other child.
Now, when we're talking about drugs, are we talking about prescription drugs that a doctor prescribed for the student, or are we just talking about drugs in general?
I suppose students can't have prescription drugs on campus.
They have to give them to the nurse, right?
They have to go to the nurse's office. But I guess when I was talking, I was thinking more of illegal drugs.
Illegal drugs,
but,
okay.
Anytime it's a disciplinary infraction, you have to show that direct causal relationship between the disability and the action itself.
Do parents know to call you? Is there information I know Mark Zimmerman talked about the book that was out, the school.
Right. The Parent Liaison Program is referenced in the student handbook.
Referenced.
It's on the website.
And that is there a website?
There is, SarasotaCountySchools.net/parents. And also, you can find information on the Child Connections website for all the resources we're giving.
And it's www.childconnections.org, right?
That's correct.
And thank you so much for being with us and giving us so much helpful information. And we'll be back.